When I Have Fears by John Keats. When I have fears that I may cease to be, before my pen has gleaned my teeming brain, before her piled books and charactery hold like rich garners of full ripened grain. When I behold upon the night's stair face huge cloudy symbols of high romance, and think that I may never live to trace their shadows with the magic hand of chance, and when I feel, fair creature of an hour, that I shall never look upon thee more, never have relish in the fairy power of unreflecting love, then on the shore of the wide world I stand alone, and think till love and fame to nothing less do sink.
The speaker is John Keats, himself as he is expressing his fears through poetry. He is reading to the general population because we are all bound to have fears of not accomplishing our goals.
The poem discusses how the speaker is afraid that he will not be able to have enough time to write the works he wants, and that he will not be able to fall in love before dying. He feels that he is a failure, that he has not lived his life to the fullest extent, and has an overall negative perspective on life.
The setting is in England during the Industrial Revolution. Keats came from humble beginnings growing up in the middle of London. In the central purpose, Keats is trying to discuss his fear of never having a romance or completing his goals. This can be seen on lines 4 through 5, which say, huge cloudy symbols of high romance, and think that I may never live to trace. The poem has a unique syntax that consists of a run-on sentence that goes up to line 12. Then a dash separates this from the concluding 2 lines. This structure reflects the speaker's feelings as the extended sentence conveys a feeling of anxiety. This contrasts the last statement that has a sense of tranquility as he feels reassured of his fears. The poem has a tone of uneasiness throughout the extended sentence as he discusses his fears. However, the tone changes when the poem closes into a more comforting one. The speaker introduces the topic of fear in the opening line, specifically about his death. He begins with his fear of not being able to develop his writing career. Then he continues on to his fear of never being able to find his love or not having that love return. At the 12th line, after analyzing his angst, he finds comfort in the shore of the wide world and realizes that love and fame is not everything in life.
John Keats uses diction related to the concept of being. In the first line, be implies that he is aware of his being and concerned with himself and with his existence. Glean, garners, and grain are all words related to agriculture, which indicate that he wants to grow as a person. In the last line, to nothingness do sink, changes the perspective of the poem completely, from looking at the world in a majestic view to one of inferiority. In lines 5 through 8, an elaborate metaphor allows Keats to imagine love as something that is written with the stars on the night sky. It's an image that is both creative and too big to understand on a common level, as to say that humans are mere mortals and love is on a grander scale. Love becomes something huge and terrifying, not to be undertaken by people. In lines 11 and 12, he mentions a magical power, and he uses this as a metaphor to explain love, as he is afraid that he won't be able to extract joy from the magical fantasy that is love. In lines 12 through 14, the image of the speaker pulling away from the world to stand on its shore is an example of Keats' negative outlook. However, this is changing as he's realizing that love and fame are not the most important things, yet he still holds them in high regard. An example of personification appears in line 8. It mentions a certain magic hand of chance. By this, he personifies his hand as a chance that can trace his romance. Another one is when I behold upon the night's starred face, in line 5. He personifies the canvas on which he sees love into a night sky with a face. There's only one simile in this poem, and that appears in line 4. It says, hold like rich garners the full ripened grain. With this, Keats is saying that he wants to hold on to his ambitions and desires tightly, just like a gardener holds on to full ripened grain.
Their shadows with the magic hand of chance, and when I feel, fair creature of an hour, that I shall never look upon thee more, never have relish in the fairy power of unreflecting love. Then on the shore of the wide world I stand alone, and think till love and fame do nothing less, do sink. Lines 8 to 14. Everything but the 11th and 13th line are iambic pentameter. The scansions would be A, B, C, B, C, D, D. The pen 10 from line 2 represents his intelligence and his aspirations for his writing goals. The high-piled books from line 3 resemble his passion and love for literature. The huge cloudy symbols of high romance from line 6, the cloudy resembles represent his unexplored fantasies he has yet to experience, but he wants to find out.
By mentioning the fair creature of an hour, he alludes to his hopeful loved one. He uses the word creature to simplify humans, yet still putting the concept of love in a grand scale.
Our poem was When I Have Fears by John Keats. Thanks for listening.